Now remember, in the run-up to the referendum, remember Project Fear? One of them was Brexit could kill 820,000 jobs. Yep, that's what our Chancellor George Osborne told us. It would also lead to an £800 pay cut for the average worker. He also said that each household would be worse off by up to £4,000 every year. And then, of course, we had another beauty. Yes, the Bank of England's Mark Carney, who warned of a city exodus. Yep, he said the city would lose jobs, businesses, company HQs. Firms in the square mile would, without question, cut back on business activity in London. So all pretty dire. And when we voted Brexit, we were told we'd voted to be poorer, we'd voted to be weaker, we'd voted to devalue the City of London. Made me furious, having worked in the city for 20 years. All I saw was EU regulation holding us back from being the global capital that really is London's destiny. Well, you could knock me down with a feather this morning when I saw the current governor of the Bank of England, who I've not been a fan of on this programme, as you know. I always call him Andrew Out-to-Lunch Bailey because he always seems to miss the important things. But suddenly, the governor says Brexit has helped the city, not harmed it, despite the dire warnings of economists and experts. Now, I thought that was pretty significant. Even more surprising was Nikhil Rathi, the chief executive of my great mates at the Financial Conduct Authority, says leaving the EU has made it easier for the UK to tailor rules to its needs. Well, there we are. I'm absolutely thrilled that what with that and with our GDP figures showing since the day we left, we have grown more quickly than France and Germany. Sorry, still anemically, and much of that propped up by large-scale immigration, but we have grown more than France and Germany. Maybe we can end this ridiculous negative argument that you will see if you switch over right now to the BBC News channel, because that's what they'll tell you. They'll tell you the whole thing is dire. Well, joining me is a city man, Lord Jonathan Marland, chairman of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, and, of course, the former Prime Minister's trade envoy. Jonathan, you know, as a city man, the warnings were pretty bleak, weren't they?
They were. I'm quite suspicious, by the way, about this announcement. I'm still yet to be persuaded that the blob, as we would call these people, really think that we have left Europe. So I'm quite suspicious about these two announcements. There's no real sign that they have cut the umbilical cord. I mean, you know, you look at the way that the civil service is still bowing towards Europe, makes me suspicious, and so I will need some convincing. I'll also need convincing with our own government, and I'm a Conservative, as you know, and pleased to be a Conservative. But there's no Brexit dividend as yet, Nigel. Yeah, regulation is bad. I actually get on very well with the FCA, but the mountain of complaints you get about the slowness, the lack of pace with which they're dealing with this, and of course with the taxation levels that we have, corporation tax and all these other taxes upon us, is not paying the Brexit dividend. And then I want a further point, which I think shows in our foreign policy. Our great king, who is a great man, has only been to two countries. Where are they?
France and Germany.
Exactly, and yet he is king of Australia, New Zealand, Canada,
and in your Commonwealth role,
Commonwealth.
You must be furious.
I'm cross because we can't get the message through, and it's not his fault, by the way. He has done a fantastic job in establishing his position here as king. He's very well thought of, very popular. But, you know, if the Commonwealth is going to survive and if our realms are going to be his realms, the Foreign Office have got to start getting a plan out there for him.
So the argument here is clear. From, and however suspicious you may be, but actually from the numbers, we see that we haven't had the exodus from the City of London, etc. You know, there are big firms like Deutsche Bank taking out 20-year leases on office space. We know from the GDP figures, again, disappointing, but in relative terms to France and Germany. So Brexit hasn't hurt us, but we haven't reaped.
Well, it could yet hurt us if we carry on with this high taxation thing, because, you know, a lot of American bankers won't want to be here, they'll want to be somewhere else. And a lot of insurance people, which, you know, you and I know pretty well, will not want to be here. People like Aon came and based themselves here when I was in government with George Osborne. We set a reduction in corporation tax, which encouraged them to bring their headquarters here from Chicago. What are they thinking now? What is the future?
Yeah, I mean, a 30% rise in corporation tax earlier this year. It does beg a belief. And yet, from the leader of your party yesterday, in his speech...
Our party, isn't it now? I saw you up there.
Oh, no, they're sort of saying they're sort of hinting they might want me back. But,
I'm sure they would.
I'll be like Groucho Marx. I wouldn't join a club that would have me. But almost nothing in the speech on business from Rishi Sunak, other than this platitude with a party of small business, with no IR35 reform, with the corporation tax rise that you've mentioned. There was almost nothing for entrepreneurship and business. How is it, Jonathan Marland, how is it that a Conservative government with an 80-seat majority, elected on a Brexit ticket, hasn't done these things, hasn't done the right things?
I think you're being a bit harsh, and I think that obviously this speech was going to get sidetracked by HS2, which is a big...
Sure.
And you don't tend to get in the leader's speech much on business and taxation. And
but with respect, I didn't hear it much from the Chancellor, right?
No, well, that's more of a thing. You're more justified in pointing your finger there, because that's where you should hear it. And we may well hear it in the autumn statement. So I'm giving them a little bit of time to get that out. I mean, they know what's got to happen. And I don't think they'll get re-elected, or we will get re-elected, unless we do show a clear path to business that we are a lower regulation, lower tax economy than the rest of our competitors, not by huge amounts, but marginal amounts, better than Europe, and the United States in particular.
The FCA boss, Mr. Rathi, says we can now tailor rules to suit our own needs. When are they
totally right.
When are they going to start doing it?
Well, I think the FCA have got a bit of a problem, because they've got, apparently, this working system where you can work the hours that you want to in your own time. Well, imagine having a meeting if you want to work from 4 till 12 and someone else wants to...
Well, hang on.
These sort of things have got to stop.
These people are on the public payroll.
Well,
the taxpayers paying for these people. Can't the government insist they actually go to blooming work?
My interface with the FCA has actually been excellent over the last 12 months, so I can't speak for myself, and we're interfacing with them a lot in our insurance business. But I am hearing a huge amount of complaints about the complacency and the lack of delivery there. I mean, they are obviously a target, but I do think he's doing a good job. I think he is trying very hard to improve the situation, and we need to give him a bit more time, because he's fairly new to the job. And he is actually, funny enough, who did he take over from?
Andrew Bailey.
Correct, your old friend.
Yeah, and before that, Howard Davis, who, of course, is still the chairman of the NatWest Banking Group.
An old friend of yours. They're both old friends.
And I've got a bit to say about NatWest later on in the programme. Well, I just hope he actually gets on with this banking review, because he was very slow. Jonathan Marland, it's good news in one way. It just could be so much better, couldn't it?
Inevitably. And it is all about this Brexit dividend that you fought very hard for, and we are now in, whether we like it or not. We have got to get our mind round that we are out of Europe, that we have got the opportunity, and we have huge markets. And I spend my time in the Commonwealth, as you know. Yeah. It's a massive market, and we're missing out on all these things. Can we get a senior government minister, Bangladesh, the second fastest growing economy in the world? Amazing. Growth, huge powerhouse that's becoming. No, because they're obsessed by going to places which...
And if we don't go, the Chinese will.
Exactly.
Jonathan Marland, as ever, thank you for